All right, let's talk here about Kevin Feige and the multiverse. Apparently, he has confirmed it. Now, there's going to be a quick spoiler here for Far From Home. So if you haven't seen it, you're warned. The whole multiverse thing that was talked about in Far From Home, it's a load of crap. If you know anything about Mysterio, and I said this before in a video, and I didn't apparently tag it right with the spoiler, so people got really mad at me about that. So I'm sorry, but Mysterio was always going to be the bad guy. I was curious how they were going to do it. I think it was pretty apparent that Mysterio was the bad guy, and ultimately, yeah, it was a special effects person who was able to then trick everybody, including Peter, and he lied about the multiverse theory in order to make them believe that anything was happening, or that these things could be happening. So as a result of that, then the question becomes, well, what about the actual multiverse? Is that going to be a reality in the MCU? And is that going to be able to bring in the X-Men characters or Fantastic Four or Deadpool? And that's been the question on everyone's mind, especially following everything that's been happening with the whole merger. And now that all the X-Men characters are back under, Kevin Feige's control. Well, yeah, this is what the article says, though. Kevin Feige confirms the MCU multiverse, says it was already revealed in Marvel movies years ago, which is interesting because I was like, wait, what? When did that happen? According to this, Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, confirming that there's a multiverse should be big news. After all, it's the thinking fan's choice when it comes to swiftly introducing the Fantastic Four or X-Men in Phase 4 and beyond. However, Feige is keen to remind everyone that the course of the multiverse exists in the MCU. In fact, it was actually revealed all the way back in Doctor Strange. So, Feige was asked by Fandango as to whether Mysterio's deceitful reveal means we would never see the multiverse in the MCU. His answer was surprisingly frank for someone who keeps secrets. He says, no, it just means he was full of shit. I mean, in Doctor Strange, we hear the Ancient One talk about the multiverse, so we've already established it as a thing. Yeah, that's true. They did. Now, I have a different theory about that, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But it goes on to say here that the Ancient One first mentions, upon initially meeting Stephen Strange in Nepal, during the hallucination scene, she asks, "Who are you in this vast multiverse, Mr. Strange?" Later on, she does explain that her magic comes from other dimensions of the multiverse. And yeah, but I thought it came from the dark dimension, which I guess that would consider a multiverse with Dormammu. I guess that's the thing. Fine. I get that. Okay, cool. So you've got that scenario going off, everything else. But yeah, that would explain that the multiverse exists. I kind of had a different theory, and I'm wondering how they're going to explain it. Now, in Endgame, when they go back to New York and the Hulk goes to the Ancient One, and she explains that in this reality, in this universe, we need all of our stones here, so you're going to have to bring it back. And that kind of set in motion all these different fragmented realities stemmed off of our original timeline. And I've always been wondering if that's going to lead to the creation of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. And then through time travel, using the quantum realm, which is now going to be a big part going forward, which I really hope is not a huge part. Like, don't overuse it, in my opinion. But anyway, that could be how they kind of reconnect the dots, so to speak, and bring it all back into a prime timeline. The worst thing that could happen to Marvel right now is definitely doing a Kelvin timeline situation, and then jumping back on that with like something like Star Trek Discovery, which was set in the prime timeline, even though a lot of fans don't, or haters, I don't even know what you really want to call them, don't necessarily believe that. So that is something to consider for when these particular stories go forward. Again, look, these people, they've got this all arced out for years, as I talked about with Spider-Man Far From Home and the arc on that, leading into coming off of Homecoming and going into Endgame and Infinity War. So yeah, those are all things that I'm not too worried about, but ultimately, I am curious to see where the multiverse goes. I just hope it's not an overused tactic, because I feel like having one concurrent storyline has worked so well for 23 films now. Diverting it off into multiple universes or multiple timelines is going to ultimately hurt the franchise. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. Those are just my thoughts on it.